Yeah, hey everyone, and welcome to show number 59 of the Australian Rock Show. If you don't know my name by now, you should. My name is Dennis Gray from the Rockin' and Rollin' Gray Brothers, and today is Friday, the 26th of August, 2016, when this show is being recorded. Had a really great response after the last show. It's always great to see some listeners sharing the show around on Facebook, which in today's fast-paced and often messed up world seems to be one of the best ways to get new listeners on board. So if you too dig the show and you think that some of your rock and roll friends might as well, hey, do your bit and spread it around via social media. And who knows, one day we might actually get some traction with this podcast. Take it to a whole other level. Just going on from that, if you are a loyal listener, another superb, cool method to help promote us is by leaving us a show review on iTunes. Friends, we really need more of those. And if you can do that for us, well, we'll keep on rolling forward and preaching the word of cool guitar-fueled rock and roll from out of Australia, past and present. I should also point out that judging from the positive email which we often receive, we must be doing something right. So again, you help us and we'll keep flying the flag and doing our best to keep rock and roll alive. The Hitmen there, burning through the New Order's mid-1970s battle cry with Rock and Roll Soldiers. Cannot think of a better way to start a show than with some Hitmen. On the previous episode, I aired the new single from longtime Hitmen vocalist Johnny Canis, and after that, it inspired me to fire up the turntable and spin some Hitmen wax, and man, it still sounds so great. Especially when you haven't heard tracks like Rock and Roll Soldiers for a while. It just sends a jolt right through you. Love that. Now, when we started this podcast, Zeus was one of the guys we penciled in to interview, so I am hoping to sit down with my cohort and get a bunch of interesting questions together and get some of Zeus's story down very, very shortly.
This is Stewie from Leadfinger. You're listening to the Australian Rock Show. Go for it.
Lifted off the new album Friday Night Heroes, that was Wollongong outfit Leadfinger with the track Champagne and Diamonds. Caught up with Stu Cunningham and the boys from Leadfinger last weekend, who were really, really good. Damn good, actually, and without a doubt, one of the best live, stripped-back rock and roll bands in Australia today. It was a pretty good set too, with a couple of neat surprises included, such as the old Brother Brick tune Chiquito Bar, which they churned out, and also a ripping version of the Dictators' Baby Let's Twist. That's off their Blood Brothers album, I think. If you live in Melbourne, be sure to catch Leadfinger when they play the Lyrebird Lounge at Ripponlea tonight, Friday the 26th of August. And then Leadfinger are on at the Retreat Hotel in Brunswick tomorrow night, Saturday the 27th of August. Trust me, folks, you'll not be disappointed. Oh, and if you live in Sydney, you can get along to the Bunker in Coogee on Saturday the 10th of September and see Leadfinger plugging into the amps there. As mentioned at the start of this show, one of the best ways you can help support this show is by leaving us a review on iTunes. Here are a couple of very nice iTunes reviews left recently for the Australian Rock Show. The place for Australian rock and roll, says Mild Pandemic. The Gray Brothers have an abiding love of all things rock and Australian music in particular. The interviews go deep into the past of personalities that have been on the scene for decades, and the relaxed conversations allow the musicians to tell their stories. Well worth a listen. One of the best rock and roll podcasts out there. Hey, thanks, Mild Pandemic. Really appreciate your comment there. And this one is by Oz Rock and Roller. These guys should be played on commercial radio across Australia. They know their history, and this show is always cool to listen to. Check it out. Commercial radio, that'd be cool. I could think of nothing better than starting a 9 a.m. syndicated radio time slot, broadcasting right across Australia with some AC/DC, Heaven, or the Rosie Tats. How cool would that be? Thank you to you too, Oz Rock and Roller. Happy you are out there listening in and enjoying what we do. You too can leave us a show review by visiting australianrockshow.com and click on the link which states, funnily enough, review us on iTunes. Okay, here is a guy whose history with my brother and I goes way, way back. Kevin Kay there with a track called In the Cold, taken from his brand new album, Manhattan Project. Now, I could sit here tonight and compile a history of Kevin Kay, but my brother knows KK's rock and roll history backwards. So let's check in with Cowboy Cole now. Cole, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Look, we just played the new track by Kevin Kay. It's called In the Cold, lifted off his brand new album, Manhattan Project. You have far more knowledge than I do when it comes to Kevin Kay. So I thought maybe you can just give us a rundown on this new release and a little bit about KK's rock and roll history as well.
Kevin Kay Precis in 60 seconds or less. Yeah, Manhattan Project is the new Kevin Kay album, and I think it's album number 25 or something like that. He, in this album, has re-recorded some old tunes, some old songs that were written by his brother and were either released as part of the Road Vultures or as Lone Cowboys. And
that's Alan Kay, correct?
Alan Kay, he's the departed brother, and yeah, they sound terrific on this new release. He's back in Florida, and he is gigging around Florida to promote the album. I'm not sure whether there's a European tour, some dates in France where he does very well, booked or not. But if people can check him out on Facebook, be able to.
How do you think? Kevin's had such an exhaustive career and so many albums he's produced. How do you think this one stands up against all the others?
I think it sounds pretty good. It's hard when you've released so many great albums, and in recent terms, I think the album he released called Deutschland was really stood out because it was very much a sort of Iggy Lust for Life kind of, David Bowie Heroes kind of experimental German era Iggy and whatnot era kind of album. So it was a bit more experimental, but it certainly showed some growth in songwriting. But having said that, this one also sounds fresh because, as I said, he's dusted off some old tunes that perhaps hadn't been heard in a number of years by the Lone Cowboys and the Road Vultures. So hopefully by re-recording them gets to give them a new hearing.
So for new listeners, where do you think, and this is a toughie, where do you think or what album would you recommend as the first place to start if you were going to look into the Kevin Kay back catalogue?
You could probably just throw the ball up in the air, and wherever it lands on any of those sort of 25-odd albums, you really couldn't go wrong. But yeah, I mean, why not start with this recent album, Manhattan Project, because it's recent and it's fairly indicative of his sound and his style and what he does. And I think I've been following him for a long time, and I don't think anyone sort of does it better. I mean, he is tenacious and he chips away at it, and like a lot of musicians, he manages to carve out a career and get his music heard. Of course, it should be heard by many more ears, but it keeps persevering, and that's good. It's great music.
The word there on Kevin Kay. Always great to catch up with my brother, but always cool to talk rock and roll with him as well. Rock and roll blood brothers till the end. Oh, and next weekend he and I will be checking out TMG's gig at Revesby in Sydney. And beforehand, I'm hoping to get along to the annual Ted Mulry Memorial Day at Leppington, which is also on Saturday the 3rd of September. If you are a fan of Australian rock and roll, and in particular the Ted Mulry Gang, this is a day not to be missed. I believe that everyone will assemble at the Forest Lawn Memorial Gardens around 12:30pm, where we will pay our respects to the much-missed Ted, followed by live music at Lockie's Tavern in Leppington between 1pm and 5:30pm, featuring Get Rocked, an outfit formed by Hush bassist Rick Lum. The Get Rocked band cover classic rock hits of the 60s, 70s and 80s, including legendary Aussie bands such as Hush, Daddy Cool, Easy Beats, Cold Chisel, Mondo Rock, AC/DC, Dragon, INXS and many more. Sounds pretty cool to these ears. Might have to get a driver for the afternoon and enjoy the ales and good rock and roll. Actually, if you were at the Get Rocked gig at Coogee Diggers back in March, you copped a treat as I believe the original lead guitarist from Hush, the great Les Gock, got up with the band and jammed. But I'm getting off track. So, yeah, I am hoping to get along to the Ted Murray Memorial Day. I will also have the recorder with me, and I'm hoping to nab some memories with some die-hard TMG fans for an upcoming edition of the Australian Rock Show. So if you see my brother and I, don't be shy. Come up and say hi. I'm fairly easy to recognise. Usually I have a black leather motorcycle jacket on, like Fonzie. Hey, a day filled with TMG memories. It could be 1976, and that sounds fine by me. To fire myself up for recording this current episode, I grabbed some TMG and Rabbit records and have been playing them all afternoon. I have a lot of time for Dave Evans, not only for his work with Rabbit, but indeed his solo output from the last few years too. Whilst I'm talking about Evans, I can feel a rant coming on. I might add that I've never understood the crap which is often slung at him. I mean, in particular, the amount of negativity he sometimes cops on social media is appalling, often from fellow Australian musicians. Not cool. He was a co-founder and the original singer of AC/DC. It's time that people got over it. I mean, it's just rock and roll, right? There are bigger issues in the world. Deal with it. From memory, he was in the band before Angus joined, correct? Does he have a right to bill himself as the original AC/DC frontman? Absolutely. That is a fact. Case in point, some time back I went to a festival and the headline act was billed as ex-singer of INXS. Guess what? It was not JD Fortune. It was the guy after him. I think his last name was Gribben. My point, this guy was also in INXS and has every right to bill himself as that, just as Dave Evans does to list AC/DC alongside his name. Evans has more than paid his dues, and like many other Australian musicians I was raised on, is someone I always have time for. When I hear the name Dave Evans, you know what I think? Great front man, strong voice, a guy who records loud, riff-laden rock and roll which kicks ass. Friends, that is all I need to know. Currently on tour in Norway, that was of course Dave Evans collaborating with legendary Texan guitarist John Nitzinger, and the track Revenge, which at a guess was released around 3 years back now. Love that. Badass, my friends. Okay, let's hear some Love Child. This is Teach Me, which is off their new album due out September the 1st. Wow, that is good. Dig that. The band are called Love Child. I think we played one of their tunes early last year. Yeah, we did. Love Child is the band. The new album is titled A Whole Lot of Sassy. Get it on iTunes and you can visit lovechildband.com.au. You can get along to the album launch Sunday, October the 2nd at the Bridge Hotel in Sydney's Rozelle for an afternoon of great rock and roll. Folks, we better get out of here. You can contact us via email at australianrockshow@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at AusRockShow, AUS Rock Show. We are also on Facebook. Visit our website at australianrockshow.com. All the past episodes are there for you to download and listen to in your car, on the bus, in the train, on your flight, wherever and whenever. Free for you to download and enjoy. You can hear the Australian Rock Show, AusRock's loudest and proudest rock and roll podcast via iTunes, Stitcher and also TuneIn. I ended last week's show with some sad news, and sadly, I'm doing it once again. A couple of days back, a very good mate of mine, Steve-O, passed away. A really, really great guy who I've known for years. His loss has rattled me this week, and mate, you will be missed. If you are listening to this podcast and you're feeling alone, depressed, low, whatever, a place like beyondblue.org.au can help you out. I used to chat about music a lot with Steve-O, and he loved Tim Rogers and UMI, so why don't we close out with something from them. Until next time, folks, here are UMI from 1993 with Berlin Chair. This is Dennis. See you next time.